Hey guys, it's Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining me. This is crooked. Thank you for joining me for today's video. Today's video is going to be my August reading wrap up. I read 17 books. Holy cow, that is a lot. I don't want this video to be super long, so I'm gonna go through them really quickly. If this is the first if this is the first wrap up video that you're watching from me, I am listening to audiobooks, mainly because I have accumulated so many books. My TBR is over 300 books, so I am trying to get, well, I don't think I'm gonna ever finish that list, but I'm trying to finish them as soon as I can, or read as much as I can. So I have been listening to the books that I have on audiobook to prevent me from keep buying more books, if that makes sense. So I do listen to books at twice the speed sometimes. Majority of the time is 1.75. I think it's because I've listened to so many audiobooks that my ear has developed like it can decipher like words being spoken that fast. I don't know. But anyway, I have made some progress on my A to Z reading challenge. Last month, I believe I had 7 letters left. I had 9 letters left, and this month I was able to complete 4. So those are the 4 that I'm going to start with. The first letter is the letter C. For that I read Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. She wrote The Hate U Give, which I loved. She also wrote On the Come Up, which I didn't care for. And Concrete Rose was a nice in between liking wise for those 2 books. This book we follow the story of Star's parents. Star is the main character in The Hate U Give, and in this book we follow her, mainly her dad. We follow both him and her, the mom and the dad, but mainly the dad as a young kid and the struggles that he went through as a Black young single dad, and how the life decisions that he made shaped the man that he is now in the world of The Hate U Give, if that made sense. This was a really nice book. It was nice to see the story from the perspective of the dad, the struggles that he went through, and the struggles that him and his girlfriend at the time, Star's mom, went through. So it was a nice backstory to The Hate U Give. Is it necessary to read if you want to read The Hate U Give? I don't think so, but it's a nice addition to that series. For the letter E, I read Every Note Played by Lisa Genova. I love all the books that I've read from Lisa Genova. I have read 2, Left Neglected and Still Alice. Lisa Genova is a neurologist or neuroscientist, neuroscientist in real life. So all her books have to do with like neuro diagnosis type storylines. This one we follow our main character who suffers from ALS. His name is Richard, and we follow the story between Richard, who is a very talented pianist who develops ALS, and he is divorced from his wife. However, due to his deterioration from suffering with ALS, his wife decides to start taking care of him, and we follow. It's a kind of a sad book because we follow how Richard, how ALS really changes your life and starts deteriorating, and it's a heartbreaking disease. We see what families go through, what patients go through when they suffer with this condition, and it taught me a lot from ALS. I didn't know much about it, and it's one of those, she's like a cross in between Kristen Hanna and Jodi Picoult type author. Very touching. I love this book. Highly recommend. It could be a tearjerker. I didn't quite cry, but I can see how this can be a tearjerker. Maybe because I'm a nurse and I have worked with patients who have not ALS but debilitating conditions where things that happen to this patient, to this character, happened in real life, and I've dealt with it. So I don't want to say that I'm completely numb to people's suffering, but I kind of have I don't want to say now that sounds like I'm heartless, but like, it's very sad. It didn't make me cry, but I think it's because I've been exposed to it before. But I can see how it can make you cry. Anyway, read it. If you like Kristen Hanna, I think you would enjoy this book. For the letter Q, I read Queenie by Candace Carty Williams. This is advertised as a cross in between Bridget Jones' Diary and Americana. I didn't care for Americana. like in the minority. And Bridget Jones, I've never read the book, but I've seen the movie a couple of times. I've seen, like, I think there's 3 movies, right? I've seen both of all of them. But anyway, I didn't have quite like high expectations for this book. However, I really did enjoy it. We follow our main character. What is her name? Is it Sydney? It's Queenie. Hello. Why did I think Sydney? We follow our main character Queenie, who goes through a breakup. Her boyfriend asks her for a breakup, and he asks her for a break. So in her mind, she's thinking like, okay, we're gonna take this time apart, and then we're gonna get together in the end. But it turns out that she doesn't cope with the separation very well, and she goes into this kind of like self-destructive pattern. Really poor coping mechanism and decisions that she makes. We kind of see some flashbacks on her life which have led her to make these kinds of decisions, and it was kind of hard to see how some mental issues caused her to make these poor decisions. And yeah, I was a little bit frustrated with the character because she was so much in denial of how self-destructive she was being. She thought that, the way of her coping, was normal for someone her age. She's a young 20-some-year-old. But it started affecting her work. She almost gets fired. It's just a vicious cycle of self-destructiveness that everybody around her see, but she is in so much denial that she doesn't see how harmful the decisions that she's making are to her well-being and to her future. So this was a nice book. I read it super fast. I couldn't put it down, even though I was kind of frustrated with her, and I just wanted to shake her and be like open up your eyes, look what you're doing, like this is not good for you. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. Is it chick lit? Maybe. Trigger warnings for domestic abuse and self-destructive pattern. I don't know. It's a tough read, I will say. So it's kind of hard to say that I enjoyed it, but I still did enjoy it. It's a good one. And the last letter that I completed was the letter X. Now for this one, I kind of cheated a little bit. I read My Oxford Year by Julia Whelan. It's just hard to find titles that start with an X, so I picked this one. And this book took me by surprise. It's not what I expected at all. I was expecting, based on the cover and on the synopsis, I was expecting this to be a fun, contemporary chick lit type of story, but it started off that way, and then midway it takes a turn, and it's just like some heavy stuff that the character deals with. For this book, we follow Ella, who has this opportunity to go study abroad to Oxford University in England for a year. She wins this kind of like grant/scholarship, and so she goes and she's learning about art. Is it an art? Or no, an English. Is it English? Yes, English literature that she's studying over there, and she falls in love with a guy, and a relationship blooms from there. So you're thinking about it's gonna be a nice happy-go-lucky story, but then it takes a dark turn, and it kind of upset me because I wanted to read like something light and fluffy, but this was kind of sad. And without spoiling things too much, I still enjoyed it. I did give it a 3-star just because it brought, like, my expectations was to have a fun, fluffy read, and it started out that way, but then it kind of dove into a more serious tone, more of a dramatic turn. Yeah. This book is a little bit deceiving. Don't let the cover deceive you, but I still recommend it. So the next books that I have here are just books that didn't fit any letter of the alphabet, and I didn't complete any more prompts for my 52 book challenge. So I'm going to just go through the rest of the books here. I have a bind up of 2 books here. They're both by Meg Cabot. One is Boy Meets Girl, and the other one is The Guy Next Door. I enjoyed... My Instant Pot is ready. I really enjoyed one of the books. The other one was kind of okay. Both books, well, the first book that I'm going to talk about is about Boy Meets Girl, and this book we follow what is her name? Kate. I have the thing here. We follow Kate, who works for HR at this company, and she of course despises her boss. I think everybody does in the office, but her boss is making her fire the sweetest like cafeteria lady. Everybody loves her. They love her food. For some reason, her boss and the cafeteria lady kind of clash, and so she makes her fire this sweet little lady. And so, too much reluctance, she does. You know, she needs to do what she is being told to do. But then the little lady comes back to sue the company for wrongful termination. There's a little mystery involved in there. There's some documentation that looks like was forged because Kate didn't sign off on some stuff that caused this lady to be fired, but she's saying that she didn't do it, that somebody forged her signature. So we follow kind of like that mysterious thing. This is told in kind of like emails and text messages and not text messages, but instant messaging. This book is like super old. When was this? Let me see if I can find when this was published. In 2004. So it feels very dated. This Boy Meets Girl was the least of my favorites just because it does make some jokes that don't age well in today's society. There's some jokes that can be seen as anti-LGBT and anti-Jewish. Therefore, I think some people would be offended by some of the material that is in here because of that. So yeah, it just felt very dated. The jokes don't work in this time and age, and this was my least favorite of the two. The second one is The Guy Next Door, in which we follow our main character, Melissa. She works for the New York Journal, and she's also like on thin line at her work. She's about to get fired as well, and she has a problem with tardiness. She's always late for work. The book actually starts with an email from HR, from the HR in this book, telling her that she's been tardy like 37 times within the last I don't know how many months. And so she's also, you know, on the brink of being fired. But anyway, the last time she's fired is because she discovers that her little elderly neighbor has passed away. She's dead. And so they're trying to rule it as a suicide, but it turns out that it looks like there was foul play. And so there's another like little mystery that is going on. We're trying to find out who the killer is of this lady. This lady has no family but just one nephew or grandson, I can't remember. Please forgive me. But the guy is away in business, so he asks one of his friends to pretend to be him, and then he meets Melissa, and then they fall in love, and then now he has to tell her like, crap, I have to tell you, like, I'm not really who you think I am. So it's the whole drama. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really funny. Definitely enjoyed it more than the first book, and I think I have the third book in the series. It's not a series, you can read it in any order, but I have had this bind up for a long time, and I'm glad that I got this big hunker of a book out of the way. It read super fast because it's all told in like messages and emails and like I said, instant messaging and stuff. So like I said, I enjoyed The Guy Next Door. Boy Meets Girl, not so much. Then I read Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume. This is also another book that felt very, very dated. I think this was from 1970. This book is a coming-of-age story, super short book, but it's very popular. I've heard a lot about this book, and we follow this girl, Margaret, who's going through puberty, moving into a new town, making friends, and there's a whole thing about you know, your first kisses and first periods and first boyfriends and just a lot of firsts that, you know, happen as a teenage girl going through puberty and stuff. And it was funny and I really enjoyed it. It was cute. Again, something that felt very dated because the things that, you know, like going to a friend's house and calling and just things that teenagers don't do today in this book. But I really enjoyed it. It's a nice book. It's a quick read. It was fun. It was good. Then I also have The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren. This is my least favorite book of Christina Lauren. In this book, we follow our two main characters, Carrie and Carrie and James, who are the assistants to Melissa and Rusty Tripp. Rusty and Melissa Tripp, they're like this super mega famous couple that they have like talk shows and books and designs, and they're like, I heard somebody say that they compared them to Tripp and Joanna Gaines. They're kind of like that, popular, and they have Carrie and James are their assistants, and they have a book deal coming out, and they're planning a book tour. The thing is that the married couple, they hate each other. They're like in the brink of divorce, and so it's up to their assistants to keep them happy, to keep the facade going that they're the perfect couple with the perfect plan and the perfect family. And so as they're fighting to try to keep the facade, going, these two assistants fall in love. There's a little bit of betrayal, some secrets that come out, and some negative exposure that the couple has to go through. It was a good story. Now my favorite one, it wasn't as romantic as their other books. Christina Lauren, their books tend to be a little bit more romantic. This felt like the least romantic of the books, but I still enjoyed it. Then I have When No One Is Watching by Elisa Cole. This was a kind of a mystery thriller book. This book we follow Sydney, who is a black woman who is living in her neighborhood, but throughout this neighborhood used to be predominantly black, and throughout the years something has been happening that the black people are being not kicked out, but they're being kind of like coerced into selling their homes to white people. So that now the neighborhood is turning mostly white. So they're trying to convince her to sell her home to a white couple. And we follow like the mystery of why is it that the white people are moving into this predominantly used to be black neighborhood, and the motives behind it. So it was a good read. Not my favorite thriller. I've read definitely better thrillers, but the idea, the premise was nice. I've never really read anything like that. I enjoyed it. I read it super fast, and I think I gave it 3 stars. It was good. Then I have here What Alice Forgot by Leanne Moriarty. I have read almost all of her books. I think I have one more that I haven't read from her. But in this book we follow, what is her main character? Oh, Alice. Hello, it only says here in the title. Who she believes to be 29 years old, pregnant. She has her life. One day she goes to the gym. She gets dizzy or something happens. She falls, hits her head, goes into a coma, wakes up, and only to realize that she is actually 39 years old. She has a family, and she's going through a divorce. So it turns out that, from that bump in her head, she thought she was still 29 years old. And so we follow the story of how she's trying to piece together the last 10 years of her life, because the last thing she remembers is being pregnant. So now she has being pregnant with her first child, and now she wakes up and she has 3 kids, I believe, 2 or 3 kids, I don't remember, but they're already grown up. She's like on the brink of divorce. The last thing she remembers is being super in love with her husband, trying so hard to get pregnant. So we kind of like try to piece her life together to see how in the last year she got to where she is right now. So it was a really good story, very interesting, very engaging. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very, very good. Leanne Moriarty wrote The Husband's Secret and Big Little Lies. The Husband's Secret was okay. Big Little Lies I really enjoyed, and The Hypnotist Lover, I think that's the name. I really enjoyed it as well. So this is a really good one. If you haven't read it, I think you should. Editing Rebecca here. I realized I forgot to talk about 2 books. So I'm going to start with this one, Big Lies in a Small Town by Diane Chamberlain. This book we follow it's a 2 timeline story type book, and we follow Morgan. She is serving time in prison for a DUI in which somebody got hurt, And so somebody approaches her and gives her an opportunity to restore a mural. She's an art major, or was an art major. And so she's offered the opportunity to restore a mural of this lady's father who passed away. And they have a deadline by which the mural needs to be completed. And in return, she will get paid and she will get probation. She won't have to serve the rest of her sentence. So she's like, jail time or restore a mural that I have no experience in doing, but I will try to do it. So she goes ahead and takes the job. And as she's learning more about the mural, she discovers the story of the artist, and she digs a little bit more into what happened to the artist. We go back in time and we follow the artist. The artist's name was Anna Dale, and we discovered her story, what happened to her, and some secrets that have been hiding. And as Anna continues to restore the mural, we find out more of the secrets that Anna had. So it's kind of a mystery story, suspense, but it's not like creepy or scary. It just keeps you really entertained throughout the whole book. It's kind of a big book. I think it's almost 400 pages. 390 pages. But it keeps you entertained right from the beginning. It doesn't waste time into like a lot of setting up the whole setup of the story. You just get into it and you learn along with Morgan things about Anna. So really highly recommend this book. I think I gave it 5 stars. I think really enjoyed it, and yeah, I highly recommend it. This next book is Faithful Place by Tana French. This is the 3rd book in the Dublin Murders mysteries. It seems that every book follows a different detective. The first 2 books we followed the girl detective and then another guy detective, but the girl detective made an appearance in the 2nd book. This one is just a completely different detective, and his name is Frank, if I remember correctly. But in this book we follow Frank, who was totally in love with this girl named Rosie, right? I think, yeah. And they make plans to leave together, and right as they're supposed to leave together, leave town together, she never shows up. He figures like, okay, well, she doesn't want to go with me, and she just figures, this is where we're breaking up. So he leaves, and then 20 some years later, he discovers that she actually could have possibly been murdered. He discovers something from the time when they were supposed to leave together, and so he decides to look into her disappearance and see what happened to her. So we follow him trying to put together the things that happened that made Rosie disappear. So this is more suspenseful than this one, and I really enjoyed it. I don't think I liked it as much as the first 2. I just feel like Tana French spends too much time like world building and developing characters. I feel like there's a lot of things here that she could have just kind of like scratched out and made the book maybe a little bit shorter. This is also a longer-ish book, 400 pages. So if this had been like maybe 325, maybe even 350, I just feel like it has a lot of like filler content that is not necessary. Therefore, it's not like my favorite mystery thriller book, but it was okay. And last but not least, I have the 3 Dark Crowns series by Kendar Blake. I have 3 Dark Crowns, 1 Dark Throne, 2 Dark Reigns, 5 Dark Fates, and the Queens of Fenburn. I originally had bought these 4 books, 1, 2, and 3, and the novella bind up, thinking that it was books 1 through 4. But then once I realized that this was a bind up of novellas, I had to go and grab this separately. So I bought all these from Book Outlet, and then these this one separately. But anyway, I read all of them. I can't tell you exactly what each book is about because it's a whole series, but essentially we follow this kingdom of Fenburn, in which each generation is born, like the queen has triplets, and the triplets are born with powers. When they come to a certain age, the 3 offspring need to fight to the death to see which queen is gonna take over and reign the kingdom, you know, forever until they die and the next generation comes. And it's a fantasy novel. Really enjoyed it. My favorite one was book 2 of the 4, and I felt like book 3 had second book syndrome. I felt like it was just a filler book. Maybe if she had made the books 1, 2, and 4 like a little bit fatter, we could have mixed what happens here in the other books. But overall, I really did enjoy it. I don't think you need to read Queens of Fenburn. I don't think it's a necessary read, but I read it because I had bought it. But yeah, it was a really good fantasy series. I hadn't read a fantasy series in a long time, and it's my first time reading anything from Kendall Blake. I know she has a series called Anna Dressed in Blood. I think that's kind of like a scary paranormally type series, but I've never read it. So this is my first one. It was really hyped up on YouTube, and I can see why it was a lot of fun. But yeah, really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really good. So there you have it, guys. Those are all the 17 books that I read in the month of August. I am up to, I think, 83 books out of my goal of 100. I will definitely be going over the 100 books this year. I'm not going to change my goal. I'm just going to see how many more I read over 100. I mean, I have 13 books left. No, 17 books. And then I'll meet my goal. So I'll definitely do it. But I'm not gonna increase my goal. I'm just gonna keep it as is. But thank you guys so much for watching, for being brave and powering through. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.